Hello children, I am Sunil Kumar Pandey, your English teacher from Cambridge International School, Dasua. In this video, I am going to discuss with you the third part of chapter 6 of your textbook Flamingo, Poets and Pancakes by Ashok Mitran. In the previous video, we discussed two rather long paragraphs of the chapter. One dealing with the number 2 man at the Gemini Studios, Mr. Kothamangalam Subbu, and the other with an unnamed man who was a lawyer and was associated with the story department of the studios. Before we move further, let's consider some short questions given on page number 61. The first, why was the office boy frustrated? If you recall, the office boy had entered the studio with very high ambitions, the ambition of becoming a star actor or a star director or at least a story writer or lyrics writer. But he was reduced to the lowly level of a makeup man, so obviously he was frustrated. Who did he show his anger on? If you remember, his anger was directed at none other than the number 2 man at the studios, Mr. Kothamangalam Subbu. Second, who was Subbu's principal? That means Subbu's boss and everyone's boss, the owner of the studio. His name is given later in the story and also in the beginning, in the introduction of the story. His name was S.S. Vasan. Third, Subbu is described as a many-sided genius. List 4 of his special abilities. Subbu is an important character in this chapter and you can get a long question on a character sketch of him. We will discuss that later on. But as for 4 of his special abilities, we may recall some of his abilities. One, he was a very creative genius. Second, he was a writer and poet as well. Third, he was very, very generous. And fourth, he was very, very loyal to his boss as well. Fourth question, why was the legal advisor referred to as the opposite by others? If you remember, the writer told us that the legal advisor was actually called illegal advisor behind his back. This was because he was different from everyone else in the makeup department in many ways, in matters of dress, in political ideology, but most of all because he was responsible for bringing to a premature end the promising career of a budding actress when he quietly recorded her outpouring against the producer of her movie and played it back to him. Fifth question, what made the lawyer stand out from the others at Gemini Studios? In the previous question, I discussed these aspects. He was different in matters of dress. He wore pant, tie, and sometimes coat as well, whereas others in the story department had a kind of uniform, khadi, kurta, and dhoti. And he was a man of neutral political ideology, whereas others were Gandhiites and Khadiites, as they had been called by the writer. And he was a man of cold logic, being a law professional, whereas others, being writers and poets, had a relaxed, dreamy air. After this, we move on to the next few paragraphs of the story. These are not as long. So we begin with first paragraph on page number 62. Gemini Studios was the favorite haunt of poets, a meeting place of poets, and after that some of the names of South Indian poets have been mentioned. And why was it favorite haunt of the poets? Because it had an excellent mess which supplied good coffee, and those were the days when Congress rule meant prohibition. I think these were pre-independence days, and the state was ruled by Congress after the elections of 1935, or it might be early days of independence when the whole country was being ruled by the Congress, and there was prohibition in force, probably in the whole of India or only in Tamil Nadu, that I am not sure. Prohibition means ban on alcohol. So since alcohol was banned, meetings over coffee were the most satisfying pastimes of political ideologues and poets and writers. Now, barring the office boys and a couple of clerks, everybody else at the studios radiated leisure, a prerequisite for poetry. Barring means except for the office boy and some clerks, almost everyone emitted a relaxed air, which was a prerequisite for poetry. That's why the writer has used the term poets in the title of the story. Almost everyone has been called poets. Most of them wore khadi and worshipped Gandhiji, but beyond that, they had not the faintest appreciation for political thought of any kind. Obviously, Mahatma Gandhi must have been very popular at the time, and khadi was something he had been popularizing. Most of those working at Gemini Studios wore khadi, and they sort of worshipped Gandhi. However, beyond that, they did not actually understand any political or philosophical thoughts of Gandhi. And after this, the writer comes to communism. Naturally, they were all averse to the term communism. Now this phenomenon of communism underpins much of the later paragraphs of this story, so it would be better if we understand the term here. Communism is a social political ideology, or rather economic and political ideology. Politically, a communist state has only one party, the Communist Party. The elections are internal to the party. And economically, all means of production, land, factories, and everything else are owned by the state. There is no industrialist, no businessman, no capitalists. In theory, everyone has the same status, economic and social status. Everyone has to work according to his capacity, and every work is paid according to his needs. Work according to capacity and get paid according to needs, not contribution. So this is the roughly, in broad way, this is the communist ideology. At one time, this ideology had become very, very popular, largely because it was unknown. Marx first advocated this ideology along with Engels, and this was seen as the remedy to all the evils of the world, and In theory, the concept of everyone being equal, everyone getting paid according to their needs was very, very attractive. So, most of the intellectuals of that time were attracted to communism, and several countries led by the Soviet Russia adopted communism as well. However, Mahatma Gandhi did not have the communist ideology. He was more sensible than that. And as the time passed on, it became apparent that the ideology of communism had several weaknesses. Almost all the communist states failed later on. Soviet Union broke up into 12 different states, and communist countries like West Germany and several others ultimately gave up that ideology, and the remaining few communist states today are either in a miserable state or witnessing an autocratic government like North Korea or even China. So, roughly, this is the concept of and history of communism. However, as I told you, Gandhi was not a believer in communism, and those who worshipped Gandhi, that means the followers of Gandhi, were also not supporters of communism. Since most of the people at the Gemini Studios sort of worshipped Gandhi, they were naturally averse to the term communism. However, they also did not understand what communism was. Among them, several kinds of rumors were in circulation about communism. What were those rumors? For them, a communist was a godless man, because communism does not believe in religion. He had no filial or conjugal love. The rumors were that a communist has no love either for his brothers or for his spouses. He had no compunction about killing his own parents, compunction, hesitation, or his children. He was always out to cause and spread unrest and violence among innocent and ignorant people. Obviously, these were wrong notions. These were just rumors prevalent about communism. Such notions, which prevailed everywhere else in South India at that time, also naturally floated about vaguely among the khadi-clad poets of Gemini Studios. Vaguely means unclearly. Evidence of it was soon forthcoming. Now the next paragraph deals with the visit of an anti-communist group to the studios. People at the Gemini Studios did not know at the time that this was an anti-communist group, because the members of the group steered clear of any political speeches or anything. The name of the group was Moral Rearmament Army, MRA, and all that this group did at the Gemini Studios was just to stage 2 plays, dramas. It was some 200 strong, 200 members. The group visited Madras sometime in 1952. These were days of early independence, not pre-independence. They couldn't have found a warmer host in India than the Gemini Studios. Someone called the group an international circus. So there were rumors about what this group was. Some said it was a circus. However, the writer humorously dismisses these. He says they weren't very good on the trapeze, the swings of the circus, and their acquaintance with animals was only at the dinner table. A humorous way of saying that they had nothing to do with animals. Also, circuses are supposed to have wild animals. But they presented 2 plays in a most professional manner. The names of the plays were Jotham Valley and The Forgotten Factor. These plays ran several shows in Madras, and along with the other citizens of the city, the Gemini family of 600, there were 600 people working at the Gemini studios, saw the plays over and over again. The plays were very good and they became very popular. The messages of the plays were usually plain and simple homilies. Homilies means teachings, simple teachings. But the sets and costumes were first rate. Madras and the Tamil drama community were terribly impressed, and for some years, almost all Tamil plays had a scene of sunrise and sunset in the manner of Jotham Valley. That means the Tamil theatre was very deeply influenced by the visit of this group and their plays Jotham Valley and Forgotten Factor. For several years to come, almost all Tamil plays depicted sunrise and sunset in their plane in the way Jotham Valley did. What was the way? A bare stage, an empty stage, a white background curtain, and a tune played on the flute. A rising tune denoted sunrise, and perhaps a falling tune denoted sunset. It was some years later that I learned that the MRA was a kind of counter movement to international communism, and the big bosses of Madras like Mr. Vasan simply played into their hands. Workers at the Gemini studios thought that Mr. Vasan did not actually know how about that group. However, Mr. Vasan would very well have known about the political leanings of the group, as the writer comments later on. I am not sure, however, that this was indeed the case, for the unchangeable aspects of these big bosses and their enterprises remained the same. MRA or no MRA means big bosses like Mr. Vasan and other capitalists and industrialists kept on working as they did. No change was brought about in their style of working due to the visit of the MRA. The staff of Gemini Studios had a nice time hosting 200 people of all hues and sizes of at least 20 nationalities. It was such a change from the usual collection of crowd players waiting to be slapped with thick layers of makeup by the office boy in the makeup department. So whatever the purpose of the visit of the MRA, the visit was a welcome change from routine work for the people at the Gemini Studios. Then another visit, and this time of a single man. A few months later, the telephone lines of the big bosses of Madras rang. And once again, we at Gemini Studios cleared a whole shooting stage to welcome another visitor. Now, who was this visitor? All they said was that he was a poet from England. This was the only thing known about him. And naturally, rumors started gaining ground about this visitor also. The only poets from England the simple Gemini staff knew or heard of were some names of English poets are mentioned, and he was none of them. So naturally, question was on everybody's lip: who was the poet visiting the Gemini Studios now? Some people said he is not a poet, he is an editor. That's why the boss is giving him a big reception, because the boss, Mr. Vasan, was also the editor of the popular Tamil weekly Anand Viktan. However, he wasn't the editor of any of the known names of British publications in Madras, that is, those known at the Gemini Studios. Since the top men of the Hindu, the newspaper The Hindu, were taking the initiative, the surmise was that, speculation was that the poet was the editor of a daily newspaper, but not from the Manchester Guardian or the London Times. That was all that even the most well-informed among us knew. So, now the writer has set the stage for the description of the visit of a poet or perhaps an editor from England. And there are only 2 or 3 paragraphs left in the story, and they deal specifically with the visit of this poet or editor, and these will be dealt with in the last video of this series. Thank you.